Welcome to this comprehensive examination of Polish armored forces during the Second World War. When we discuss tank warfare in World War II, our minds often turn to the massive Panzer divisions that swept across Europe, the legendary Soviet T-34, or the dependable American Sherman. However, the story of Polish tanks and armored vehicles during this devastating conflict deserves far greater recognition than it has received. Today we will explore the fascinating history of Polish armor during World War II, a story that begins with innovation and promise in the 1930s, continues through the desperate defense of 1939, and extends to Polish tank crews fighting in exile across multiple theaters of war until final victory in 1945. Poland's interwar period saw significant development in armored warfare doctrine and tank design. The newly independent Polish nation, reborn after World War I, recognized the importance of mechanized forces and invested heavily in developing its armored capabilities. Polish engineers designed innovative tanks that were competitive with or superior to many contemporary designs. Polish military theorists developed modern doctrines for armored warfare. By 1939, Poland possessed a modest but capable tank force that represented years of development and investment. The German invasion of September 1939 would test Polish armor in the crucible of combat against the Wehrmacht's experienced Panzer divisions. Despite being outnumbered and facing tactical surprise, Polish tank crews fought with extraordinary courage and occasionally achieved remarkable successes. The campaign demonstrated both the capabilities of Polish armor and the limitations imposed by numbers, logistics, and the overwhelming force of the German onslaught combined with Soviet invasion from the east. After Poland's defeat, the story of Polish armor did not end. Polish tank crews escaped to France, then to Britain, and eventually fought in Polish armored units within Allied formations. They would participate in crucial campaigns from North Africa to Italy to Northwest Europe, proving their skill and courage repeatedly. Polish tankers would ultimately participate in the liberation of Europe, though tragically not in the liberation of their own homeland. Let us now examine the tanks that equipped these determined soldiers, beginning with the vehicles that form Poland's pre-war armored forces. 7TP light tank. The 7TP was Poland's most advanced and capable tank at the outbreak of World War II and represented a significant achievement in Polish military engineering. Developed in the mid-1930s, the 7TP was based on the British Vickers 6-ton tank, but incorporated substantial Polish improvements that made it superior to the original design. The designation 7TP stood for 7 tons Polish, referring to its weight class. This light tank came in two main variants: the twin-turret version armed with 2 machine guns, and the single-turret version armed with a 37mm Bofors anti-tank gun, which became the standard production model. The 7TP measured 4.6 meters in length, 2.4 meters in width, and 2.2 meters in height. It weighed approximately 9.9 tons, somewhat heavier than its designation suggested due to the improvements over the original Vickers design. The tank was powered by a Polish-designed Sauer diesel engine producing 110 horsepower, making the 7TP one of the first production tanks in the world to use a diesel engine. This was a significant technological advancement, as diesel engines offered better fuel efficiency, longer range, and reduced fire risk compared to gasoline engines. The 7TP could reach a maximum speed of 37 kilometers per hour on roads and had a range of approximately 160 kilometers. The single-turret variant, which equipped most Polish tank battalions by 1939, mounted the Swedish-designed 37mm Bofors WZ-37 anti-tank gun, one of the most effective anti-tank weapons of the late 1930s. This gun could penetrate 40 millimeters of armor at 100 meters, making it capable of defeating any German tank of 1939, except at extreme angles. Secondary armament consisted of a coaxial 7.92mm WZ-30 machine gun. The tank's armor protection ranged from 5 to 17 millimeters, which was adequate against small arms and shell fragments, but vulnerable to anti-tank weapons. The crew consisted of 3 men: commander, gunner, and driver. The 7TP incorporated several advanced features for its time. The diesel engine provided excellent reliability and range. The tank featured modern periscopes for the crew, improving situational awareness. The turret design allowed good fields of fire, and the 37-millimeter gun gave the 7TP firepower comparable to or better than most contemporary light tanks. Polish tankers appreciated the vehicle's reliability and combat effectiveness. During the September 1939 campaign, approximately 132 7TP tanks were in Polish service, forming the backbone of Polish armored battalions. These tanks fought throughout the campaign and achieved numerous successes against German armor. In several engagements, 7TPs proved capable of defeating German Panzer, Rus II, and even some Panzer III and IV tanks. Polish crews demonstrated that the 7TP was a formidable opponent when properly employed. However, the overwhelming numerical superiority of German forces, combined with Luftwaffe air supremacy and the strategic situation, meant that individual tactical successes could not prevent overall defeat. Notable engagements involving 7TP tanks included the Battle of Mokra, where Polish armor helped repel initial German attacks, and numerous defensive actions during the fighting withdrawal. The 7TP's 37mm gun proved highly effective against German armor, and several Polish tank commanders became aces, destroying multiple enemy vehicles. The tank's reliability meant that mechanical failures were relatively rare compared to some other designs, and many 7TPs remained operational throughout the campaign until destroyed in combat or abandoned due to fuel shortages. The 7TP represented what Polish armor could achieve given adequate resources and time. Had Poland possessed several hundred more of these tanks, and had they been concentrated in armored divisions rather than dispersed in infantry support battalions, the story of September 1939 might have been different. As it was, the 7TP demonstrated its quality in combat and earned the respect of German opponents who encountered it. TKS and TK3 tankettes. The TKS and its predecessor, the TK3, were Polish-designed tankettes that formed the most numerous element of Polish armored forces in 1939. These tiny two-man vehicles were developed in the early 1930s based on experience with British Cardin-Lloyd tankettes, but incorporated substantial Polish improvements. The TK3 entered service first, followed by the improved TKS model, which became the standard production version. The TKS measured just 2.58 meters in length, 1.77 meters in width, and 1.33 meters in height, making it one of the smallest armored fighting vehicles in service with any nation. It weighed only 2.6 tons, allowing it to cross bridges that could not support heavier vehicles and giving it excellent mobility. The tankette was powered by a Polski Fiat 122B engine, producing 46 horsepower, providing a maximum speed of 46 kilometers per hour on roads and a range of approximately 200 kilometers. The two-man crew consisted of a driver and a commander who also operated the armament. Standard armament for the TKS was a single 7.92mm WS-25 Hotchkiss machine gun, though a small number were experimentally fitted with 20mm automatic cannons shortly before the war. Armor protection was minimal, ranging from 3 to 10 millimeters, providing protection only against small arms fire and shell fragments. The tankette had an open top covered by a sliding hatch, limiting crew protection but providing good visibility. Poland produced approximately 300 TKS and TK3 tankettes, making them by far the most numerous Polish armored vehicles. They equipped reconnaissance units attached to infantry divisions and cavalry brigades. The tankette's small size, good mobility, and long range made them well suited for reconnaissance missions on Poland's often poor road network. They could infiltrate through terrain impassable to larger vehicles and provided mobile firepower support to infantry and cavalry units. During the September 1939 campaign, these tankettes were employed extensively in reconnaissance and screening roles. Their light armament and minimal armor meant they were ineffective against German tanks, but they could engage German reconnaissance vehicles, armored cars, and soft targets. Polish tankette crews displayed remarkable courage, often engaging superior forces and conducting harassment operations against German columns. The handful of TKS tankettes armed with 20mm automatic cannons proved significantly more effective. This weapon, though still limited, could penetrate the armor of German Panzer version II tanks at close range. Several Polish tankette commanders achieved notable successes with these armed variants. The most famous was Edmund Roman Orlik, who commanded a 20mm armed TKS and reportedly destroyed 13 German tanks during the September campaign before being killed in action. His achievements demonstrated that even minimal armor could be effective in skilled hands with appropriate weapons. The TKS and TK3 tankettes represented Polish attempts to provide widespread armored mobility within budget constraints. While inadequate for tank versus tank combat, they fulfilled reconnaissance roles effectively and provided some degree of mechanized capability to units that otherwise would have had none. Their combat record demonstrated both the limitations of minimal armor and the courage of crews who fought in vehicles offering little protection. Vickers E 6-ton tank. Poland purchased 38 Vickers 6-ton tanks from Britain in the early 1930s. These tanks served as the basis for Polish tank development and provided valuable experience that would inform the creation of the 7TP. The Vickers E, as it was designated in Polish service, came in two variants: Type A with twin machine gun turrets and Type B with a single turret mounting a 47mm gun. Poland operated primarily the twin turret Type A variant. The Vickers E measured 4.88 meters in length, 2.41 meters in width, and 2.16 meters in height. It weighed approximately 7.4 tons and was powered by an Armstrong Siddeley engine producing 80 to 95 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of 35 kilometers per hour and a range of about 160 kilometers. The twin turret variant mounted two machine guns in separate small turrets, allowing the tank to engage two targets simultaneously, though this feature proved less useful than expected in practice. Armor protection ranged from 6 to 25 millimeters, providing reasonable protection against small arms and fragments, but vulnerable to anti-tank weapons. The crew consisted of 3 men, driver and 2 turret operators. By 1939, the Vickers E tanks in Polish service were considered obsolete, having been superseded by the 7TP. However, they remained in service due to the shortage of modern tanks. During the September 1939 campaign, the Vickers E tanks saw limited action. Their obsolescence and light armament made them ineffective against German armor. Most were used in training roles or for rear area security. A few participated in combat actions, but achieved little success. The Vickers E's primary contribution to the Polish war effort was indirect. The experience gained operating these tanks informed Polish development of the far superior 7TP. Renault FT-17. Poland inherited and purchased approximately 120 Renault FT-17 tanks, the famous French light tank of World War I. These elderly vehicles, dating from 1917-1918, were thoroughly obsolete by 1939, but remained in Polish service due to the shortage of modern tanks. The FT-17 was the world's first tank with a fully rotating turret and established the configuration that would become standard: driver in front, fighting compartment with turret in the middle, engine in the rear. The FT-17 measured 5 meters in length, 1.74 meters in width, and 2.14 meters in height. It weighed 6.5 tons and was powered by a Renault 4-cylinder engine producing 39 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of only 7 kilometers per hour. The 2-man crew consisted of a driver and a commander, gunner. Polish FT-17s were armed either with a 37mm Puteaux gun or a machine gun, depending on the variant. Armor ranged from 8 to 22 millimeters. By 1939, the FT-17 was hopelessly obsolete, with inadequate armor, minimal speed, and outdated weapons. Most Polish FT-17s were relegated to training duties or static defensive positions. A few participated in the September 1939 campaign in desperate circumstances, but their combat effectiveness was negligible. The FT-17's presence in Polish service represented the difficulty faced by smaller nations in replacing obsolete equipment with modern designs. With 734 armored car, the WW-734 was a Polish-designed armored car that entered service in small numbers in the late 1930s. This four-wheeled vehicle was designed for reconnaissance and cavalry support roles. It measured approximately 4.4 meters in length and weighed about 2.3 tons. The WZ-34 was powered by a Fiat engine producing 40 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of 60 kilometers per hour on roads. The 2-man crew consisted of a driver and a commander, gunner. Armament consisted of a single 7.92mm machine gun mounted in a small rotating turret. Armor protection was minimal, ranging from 3 to 8 millimeters, providing protection only against small arms. The WS-34's good speed and mobility made it effective for reconnaissance, but its light armament and armor limited combat effectiveness. Approximately 80 WS-34 armored cars were produced before the war. During the September 1939 campaign, WS-34 armored cars served with reconnaissance units and achieved some successes in screening and information-gathering roles. Their speed allowed them to evade superior forces, and their mobility made them useful for rapid repositioning. However, like other Polish reconnaissance vehicles, they were inadequate for direct combat against German armor. WS-29 Ursus armored car. The WS-29, also known as the Ursus armored car, was an earlier Polish armored car design from the late 1920s. This vehicle was based on a truck chassis and featured a simple armored body with a machine gun turret. The WS-29 was larger and heavier than the WS-34, weighing approximately 4 tons. It was powered by a truck engine providing modest speed and cross-country performance. Armament consisted of 1 or 2 7.92mm machine guns in a rotating turret. Armor protection was similar to the WZ-34, ranging from 3 to 8 millimeters. The 3-man crew consisted of a driver, commander, and gunner. Approximately 30 WS-29 armored cars were built and served primarily with border protection units and internal security forces. By 1939, the WS-29 was considered obsolete, and most had been withdrawn from frontline service. A few remained in service with rear area security units during the September campaign but saw little combat action. The WZ-29 represented an early step in Polish armored car development that would lead to more capable designs like the WS-34. Renault R-35. After the defeat of September 1939, Polish soldiers escaped to France and were reorganized into Polish units within the French army. The 10th Armored Cavalry Brigade was formed, equipped primarily with French tanks, including the Renault R-35. This light infantry tank was one of the most numerous French tanks of 1940. The R-35 measured 4.02 meters in length, 1.87 meters in width, and 2.13 meters in height. It weighed 10.6 tons and was powered by a Renault engine producing 82 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of only 20 kilometers per hour. The 2-man crew consisted of a commander, gunner, and a driver. Armament consisted of a short 37mm gun and a coaxial 7.5mm machine gun mounted in a small 1-man turret. Armor protection ranged from 10 to 45 millimeters, providing reasonable protection against most anti-tank weapons of the period. However, the R-35 suffered from serious limitations: extremely slow speed, poor cross-country mobility, 1-man turret that overloaded the commander, and a gun with limited anti-armor capability. Polish crews trained on R-35 tanks in early 1940 and fought in them during the Battle of France in May and June. Despite the tank's limitations, Polish tankers demonstrated their skill and courage, achieving some tactical successes. However, the R-35's inadequacies, combined with the overall French strategic collapse, meant that individual Polish achievements could not affect the campaign's outcome. Many Polish tankers who survived the Battle of France evacuated to Britain to continue the fight. Renault R-40. A small number of Polish units also operated the Renault R-40, an improved version of the R-35 with enhanced suspension, providing slightly better mobility. The R-40 retained the same armament and armor as the R-35, but had modestly improved cross-country performance. Polish crews found the R-40 slightly better than the R-35, but it still suffered from the same fundamental limitations: inadequate speed, poor mobility, and limited firepower. The R-40 equipped some Polish units during the Battle of France, and like R-35 equipped units, achieved limited success before the French collapse forced evacuation or capture. Hotchkiss H-35 and H-39. Some Polish units in French service operated Hotchkiss H-35 and H-39 light tanks. These were similar in concept to the Renault R-35, but with better mobility. The H-39 weighed approximately 12.1 tons and was powered by a Hotchkiss engine producing 120 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of 36 kilometers per hour, significantly faster than the Renault tanks. Armament consisted of a 37mm gun and coaxial machine gun in a 1-man turret. Armor ranged from 12 to 45 millimeters. The Hotchkiss tanks were more mobile than the Renaults, making them somewhat more effective in combat. Polish crews appreciated the better speed and reliability. However, the H-35 and H-39 still suffered from inadequate firepower and the one-man turret problem. Polish units equipped with Hotchkiss tanks fought in the Battle of France with determination, but could not overcome the strategic situation. After France's fall, surviving Polish tankers evacuated to Britain, where they would eventually receive far more capable Allied tanks. Matilda II Infantry Tank. Polish armored units reconstituted in Britain initially received Matilda II infantry tanks as part of their equipment. The Matilda II was Britain's primary infantry tank in the early war period. This heavy infantry tank measured 5.61 meters in length, 2.59 meters in width, and 2.51 meters in height. It weighed 26.9 tons and was powered by twin AEC diesel engines, producing a combined 174 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of only 24 kilometers per hour on roads. The four-man crew consisted of commander, gunner, loader, and driver. Armament consisted of a 2-pounder, 40mm gun and coaxial 7.92 millimeter Bisa machine gun in a 3-man turret. The Matilda II's most impressive feature was its armor, up to 78 millimeters on the frontal surfaces, making it immune to most German anti-tank weapons in 1940-1941. However, the tank suffered from very slow speed, poor mobility, and limited firepower as the 2-pounder gun could not fire high-explosive shells, only armor-piercing rounds. Polish tank crews trained on Matilda II in Britain and appreciated the vehicle's exceptional armor protection. However, they recognized its limitations in speed and firepower. The slow speed made tactical maneuvers difficult, and the inability to fire high-explosive ammunition limited effectiveness against infantry and soft targets. Polish units equipped with Matildas remained in Britain for training and home defense during 1940-1941, as these tanks were considered too slow for offensive operations. As better tanks became available, Polish units transitioned away from the Matilda II. Valentine Infantry Tank. Polish armored units also operated Valentine infantry tanks during their time in Britain. The Valentine was lighter and more mobile than the Matilda II, while still providing good armor protection. The Valentine measured 5.41 meters in length, 2.63 meters in width, and 2.27 meters in height. Various models weighed between 16 and 17 tons. Power came from different engines depending on variant, typically producing around 135 to 165 horsepower, giving maximum speeds of 24 to 32 kilometers per hour. The 3-man crew consisted of commander, loader, gunner, and driver in early models, though later versions had a 4-man crew. Armament in British service consisted of a 2-pounder gun in early variants and a 6-pounder, 57mm gun in later models, along with a coaxial machine gun. Armor protection ranged from 8 to 65 millimeters, providing good protection against most anti-tank weapons, while keeping weight manageable. The Valentine was reliable, easy to maintain, and had good mechanical durability. Polish crews trained on Valentines and found them to be reasonable vehicles, better than the Matilda II due to improved mobility, though firepower remained limited with the 2-pounder gun. Some Polish units operated Valentines equipped with the improved 6-pounder gun, which provided much better anti-tank capability. However, like the Matilda II, Valentines in Polish service were primarily used for training in Britain rather than frontline combat, as Polish armored units would eventually be equipped with more powerful American tanks. Cromwell Cruiser Tank. The Cromwell was Britain's first truly successful cruiser tank, combining good armor, adequate firepower, and excellent mobility. This tank entered service in 1943 and equipped some British and Polish armored units. The Cromwell measured 6.35 meters in length, 3.048 meters in width, and 2.51 meters in height. It weighed approximately 27.6 tons and was powered by a Rolls-Royce Meteor engine, a D-rated version of the famous Merlin aircraft engine, producing 600 horsepower. This gave the Cromwell a maximum speed of 64 kilometers per hour, making it one of the fastest tanks of World War II. The 5-man crew consisted of commander, gunner, loader, driver, and hull machine gunner. Primary armament consisted of a 75 mm gun, capable of firing both armor-piercing and high-explosive ammunition, along with two 7.92 mm Bisa machine guns. Armor protection ranged from 8 to 76 millimeters, providing reasonable but not exceptional protection. The Cromwell's main advantages were its speed, reliability, and the versatile 75 mm gun that could engage both armored and soft targets effectively. A limited number of Polish tank units operated Cromwells during the Northwest Europe campaign in 1944-1945. Polish crews appreciated the tank's speed and reliability, which made it excellent for exploitation and pursuit operations. The 75 mm gun was adequate against most German armor except the heaviest tanks. However, Polish armored divisions primarily operated American Sherman tanks, with Cromwells serving in smaller numbers in specialized roles such as reconnaissance troops or attached to British formations. Sherman M4 medium tank. The American Sherman M4 medium tank became the primary equipment of Polish armored forces from 1943 onward and deserves extensive discussion as it was the tank that Polish crews would fight in through the liberation of Europe. The Sherman came in numerous variants, with Polish forces operating primarily the M4A2 with the diesel engine and the M4A4 with the Chrysler multi-bank engine. These reliable, well-designed tanks represented the backbone of Allied armored forces in the European theater. The Sherman M4A2 measured 5.84 meters in hull length, 2.62 meters in width, and 2.74 meters in height. With a 75 mm gun, it weighed approximately 31 tons. The M4A2 was powered by twin GM 6-71 diesel engines, producing a combined 375 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of 48 kilometers per hour on roads and a range of approximately 240 kilometers. The five-man crew consisted of commander, gunner, loader, driver, and co-driver, hull machine gunner. Standard armament consisted of a 75 mm M3 gun, capable of firing armor-piercing, high-explosive, smoke, and other ammunition types. This versatile weapon could engage both armored vehicles and infantry with equal effectiveness. Secondary armament included a 50 caliber M2 Browning heavy machine gun on the turret roof for the commander and 2 or 3 30 caliber Browning machine guns in the bow and coaxial mounts. Armor protection ranged from 13 to 76 millimeters on the M4A2, with the frontal armor providing good protection against most German anti-tank weapons at combat ranges, though vulnerable to the more powerful German guns. The Sherman featured numerous advantages that made it an excellent tank for Polish crews. Reliability was exceptional, with mechanical failures rare compared to German tanks. The tank could be operated and maintained by crews with moderate training, important for forces rebuilding after years of exile. Ergonomics were excellent, with well-designed crew stations, good visibility devices, and efficient layout. The gyro-stabilized gun allowed firing while moving, a capability few other tanks possessed. Ammunition stowage was generous, carrying more rounds than most German tanks. The versatile 75 mm gun with multiple ammunition types made the Sherman effective in various roles. Polish forces received hundreds of Sherman tanks, equipping the 1st Polish Armored Division in Northwest Europe and Polish units in Italy. Polish Sherman crews achieved remarkable success in combat, demonstrating that the Sherman, properly employed, was a formidable weapon. The 1st Polish Armored Division, commanded by General Stanisław Maciek, became one of the most effective Allied armored formations in Northwest Europe. Polish Shermans fought throughout the campaign from Normandy to Germany. During the Battle of Normandy, Polish armor participated in the critical fighting around Falaise, where the 1st Polish Armored Division played a crucial role in closing the Falaise pocket, trapping German forces and destroying substantial enemy formations. Polish Sherman crews demonstrated exceptional skill in this difficult battle, fighting against German Panther and Tiger tanks with great courage. Despite facing superior German armor, Polish tactics and crew quality allowed them to achieve victory. The 1st Polish Armored Division continued fighting through France, Belgium, and into the Netherlands. Polish Shermans participated in the liberation of numerous Dutch and Belgian cities. The division's combat record was exemplary, with Polish crews destroying hundreds of German vehicles and achieving numerous tactical victories. General Maxek's leadership and Polish fighting spirit, combined with the capable Sherman tank, made this formation one of the most feared Allied units. Some Polish Shermans were modified with additional armor in the field, as crews sought to improve protection against German anti-tank weapons. Sandbags, spare track links, and concrete were sometimes added to frontal surfaces. While these modifications provided psychological comfort and some protection against hollow-charge weapons, they also increased weight and reduced mobility. Later in the war, some Polish units received Sherman variants with the more powerful 76mm gun, designated M4A2 76W or similar. This improved gun could penetrate the frontal armor of German Panthers and engage Tigers more effectively. Polish crews welcomed this firepower upgrade, though the majority of Polish Shermans retained the 75mm gun throughout the war. Polish Shermans also fought in Italy, where Polish forces had been engaged since 1944. The terrain in Italy was challenging for armor, with mountains, rivers, and destroyed infrastructure limiting mobility. However, Polish Sherman crews adapted to these conditions and provided crucial support to infantry operations. Polish armor played important roles in several Italian battles, including the capture of Monte Cassino and subsequent operations. Sherman Firefly. The Sherman Firefly deserves special mention as one of the most important Allied tank developments of the war. This British modification of the Sherman replaced the 75mm gun with the powerful 17-pounder, 76.2mm anti-tank gun, creating a tank capable of defeating any German armor at combat ranges. The Firefly typically used the Sherman M4A4 chassis. The installation of the large 17-pounder gun required significant turret modifications and reduced the crew to 4 men, as there was no longer room for a loader station and the commander had to assist with loading. The Firefly's 17-pounder gun could penetrate 120 to 140 millimeters of armor at 1,000 meters with standard ammunition and even more with special projectiles. This made it capable of destroying Panthers, Tigers, and even King Tigers under favorable conditions. The Firefly was typically issued to British and Commonwealth armored units at a rate of 1 per troop of 4 tanks, providing each unit with a powerful anti-tank capability while retaining the versatility of standard 75mm Shermans. Polish armored units operating within British formations included Sherman Fireflies in their tank troops. Polish Firefly crews achieved numerous successes against German heavy armor. The psychological impact of the Firefly was significant, as German tank crews learned to identify and prioritize Fireflies as the most dangerous Allied tanks. Polish Firefly gunners became highly skilled at long-range engagement, using the 17-pounder's superior penetration to engage German armor at ranges where return fire was less effective. Stuart M3, M5 light tank. Polish armored units also operated American M3 and M5 Stuart light tanks in reconnaissance roles. These small, fast tanks were designated Stuart by the British and served primarily in reconnaissance troops of armored regiments. The M5 Stuart, the most common variant in Polish service, measured 4.84 meters in length, 2.46 meters in width, and 2.30 meters in height. It weighed 15.3 tons and was powered by twin Cadillac V8 engines, producing a combined 220 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of 58 kilometers per hour. The 4-man crew consisted of commander, gunner, driver, and co-driver. Armament consisted of a 37mm gun and 3 30-caliber machine guns. Armor ranged from 13 to 51 millimeters. The Stuart was fast, reliable, and had excellent mobility, making it ideal for reconnaissance. However, its light armor and small gun made it inadequate for tank versus tank combat by 1944. Polish reconnaissance troops used Stuarts effectively for screening, flank security, and information gathering, avoiding direct engagement with German armor when possible. Crusader cruiser tank. Some Polish units temporarily operated British Crusader cruiser tanks during training in Britain or in specialized roles. The Crusader was a fast cruiser tank designed for mobile warfare. It measured 5.99 meters in length, 2.64 meters in width, and 2.23 meters in height. Various marks weighed between 19.3 and 20.1 tons. Power came from a Nuffield Liberty engine producing 340 horsepower, giving maximum speeds around 43 kilometers per hour. The 3 or 4-man crew varied by mark. Early Crusaders mounted a 2-pounder gun, later variants received a 6-pounder, and the final Crusader III had a 57mm gun. Armor ranged from 7 to 51 millimeters. The Crusader was fast and maneuverable, but suffered from mechanical unreliability, inadequate armor, and limited firepower. Polish crews found the Crusader inferior to American Shermans and generally transitioned away from Crusaders as Shermans became available. Some Crusaders remained in Polish service in specialized roles such as anti-aircraft variants or observation posts. The story of Polish tanks in World War II is one of innovation, tragedy, resilience, and ultimate triumph. Polish armor began the war with capable modern tanks like the 7TP that demonstrated Poland's technical sophistication and military preparedness. The September 1939 campaign, despite its ultimate failure, showcased the quality of Polish equipment and the courage of Polish crews who fought against overwhelming odds. The defeat of 1939 and the subsequent years in exile tested Polish tankers to the limit. They endured the frustration of fighting in inadequate French tanks during the Battle of France, the uncertainty of rebuilding in Britain, and the long wait before returning to combat. Through all this, Polish tankers maintained their professionalism and their determination to liberate their homeland. When Polish armor finally returned to combat in 1944, equipped with capable American Sherman tanks, they proved to be among the finest armored forces in the Allied armies. The 1st Polish Armored Division's combat record speaks for itself. From Normandy to Germany, Polish Shermans and their crews achieved victory after victory, playing crucial roles in some of the most important battles of the war's final year. The tragedy of Polish armor's story is that despite their achievements, Polish tankers could not liberate their own homeland. Poland's liberation came from the east, from Soviet forces, and Poland's post-war fate was decided by powers beyond Polish control. The brave men who fought in 7TPs in September 1939 and in Shermans in 1944-1945 fought for a free Poland. But that freedom would not come for another generation. Nevertheless, the achievements of Polish armor during World War II deserve recognition and remembrance. From the innovative 7TP light tank that stood equal to any contemporary design, through the desperate battles of 1939, to the triumphant campaigns of 1944-1945 in Sherman tanks, Polish tankers wrote a remarkable chapter in the history of armored warfare. They demonstrated that courage, skill, and determination are as important as numbers and technology. They proved that even in defeat, military forces can maintain their honor and professionalism, and they showed that given the opportunity and proper equipment, Polish armor was second to none. The legacy of Polish tanks in World War II extends beyond the battles they fought. Polish armor represented national pride, technical achievement, and military excellence. The 7TP light tank demonstrated Poland's capacity for military innovation and indigenous weapons development. Polish tankers who fought in exile kept alive the spirit of Polish resistance and demonstrated Poland's contribution to Allied victory. Their story deserves to be better known and more widely appreciated. Thank you for joining us on this comprehensive exploration of Polish tanks in World War II. The courage and achievements of Polish tank crews, from the 7TP crews of September 1939 to the Sherman crews of 1944 and 1945, deserve our recognition and respect. They fought with distinction in every theater where Polish forces served, from Poland to France to Britain to North Africa to Italy to Northwest Europe. Their story is an integral part of the larger narrative of World War II and a testament to the enduring spirit of the Polish nation and its armed forces.